Welcome into CU Sports Mag. I am Jake Shapiro.
And I'm Alex Doyle. We've got a fabulous show today.
Hold on a second. It's actually an actual good show, Alex.
That's true, Jake. On the show, we have updates about the upcoming spring football game, postseason basketball, and more.
CU Sports Mag was out in Las Vegas last weekend for the Pac-12 tournament. The annual competition tagged the Buffs as the 7th seed. On the first day of the tournament, Wednesday, they beat the Washington State Cougars 73-63, led by a great comeback in the second half. Xavier Johnson hit some massive threes. Wes Gordon looked to be at his peak, while Derek White did Derek White things. In the second half, with the effort that the Buffs were set to play their arch rival on Thursday, Arizona.
In that game against the Wildcats, the Buffs hung tough, playing a toe-to-toe game with their foes. Eventually, though, Arizona took an advantage and rode it in front of many of their home fans, winning 92-78. The overall bright spot from the Buffs, again, was White, who had over 25 points in the game against one of the toughest defenses in the West. Arizona, the number 2 seed, went on to win the entire Pac-12 tournament, defeating top 10 teams UCLA and Oregon in back-to-back nights. At first, it looked like the men's basketball season was over following their loss to the Cats. On Sunday, they found out that they had made the NIT, meaning Colorado has made the postseason every year under Tad Boyle. The NIT, a very respected secondary tournament to the Big Dance, has seen CU have some great success over the years, winning the whole thing in 1940. This year, this was not the case. By Wednesday night, CU's Hoopsters were already knocked out of that tournament, falling to the UCF Knights 79-74. The Buffs fell behind double digits in the first half. While they did storm back and make a great comeback, even giving Derek White a shot to tie with 10 seconds left, they fell short. Although White did miss the shot, he was far from the GOAT. He finished with 30 points on 11 from 21 from the field with 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal in his final game at Colorado. Wes Gordon, Xavier Johnson, and Josh Fortune also played in their final games as Buffaloes.
You mentioned the fifth-year senior transfer White, Alex. Last week, White was one of 10 players named to the first-team All-Pac-12 Conference. He was the only Buff honored by the conference in their yearly postseason awards. The last 3 games of his collegiate career may have been his best as he wrapped up his phenomenal season. He finished the season with 615 points. Only 7 players before him at CU had passed the 600-point mark in a single season. White finished the year averaging 18.1 points, 4.4 assists, 4.1 rebounds, 1.4 blocks, and 1.2 steals per night. Not only are those numbers great, he did it while shooting 50.7% from the field, 39.6% from deep, and 81.3% from the charity stripe.
It wasn't only the men's team that came away with some conference honors. The women's hoops team had 7 women's basketball players named to the Pac-12 All-Academic team last Friday. It is the most players CU has had earn conference All-Academic honors since 10 Buffs were honored by the Big 12 in 2002. CU's 7 honorees are also the second most in the Pac-12 this season behind Stanford's 8. Congratulations to Haley Smith, Zoe Beard-Fales, Monica Burge, Zoe Coriel, Mackenzie Ellis, Kennedy Leonard, and Brecca Thomas.
Not only was Leonard named to the academic honor roll, she was also first team Pac-12. As her year wraps up, we have to take a second look at what she's done this season. She has been dominant, and as a sophomore, with her averages of 17.1 points, 5.7 assists, 3.1 rebounds, and over 2 steals per contest, she ranks in the top 5 of several conference statistical categories. She has led the Buffs back from a sorry 7-win season last year to a postseason appearance this year. Leonard and the Buffs took on UNLV last night in the WNIT.
Women's basketball head coach J.R. Payne bought the tickets for the first 100 students who came to the WNIT contest last night against UNLV. Students who showed up to the Coors Event Center just had to show their Buff 1 cards and got access to the game. In addition, Half-Fast Subs provided sandwiches to the students who went to the game.
The women's basketball team will get another opportunity to play after their win in the WNIT tournament last night. They beat UNLV last night in the Coors Event Center by a final score of 66-52. The ladies started the game a little slower than Coach Payne would have liked, but they came out strong in the second quarter to take over the lead. Kennedy Leonard and Alexis Robinson led the team in the second half, putting up the most points scored. Leonard scored 17 of her 23 in that half. the second half of the contest. The Buffs moved on to play South Dakota State on Sunday afternoon in the next round of the tournament.
With the NFL Combine wrapping up last week and the spring football game tomorrow, it feels like football is back. Last season, the Buffs sent 3 of their players to the NFL, and at their current rate, it won't stop there. With so few Buffs currently in the NFL, every true fan should be able to identify them. So, for this week's trivia question, we are asking you, who was the last Colorado Buffalo taken in the first round of the NFL Draft? We'll tell you the answer at the end of the show, so don't go anywhere. We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we have more Colorado sports news to discuss.
We have Aaron Sullivan talking about skiing, volleyball, and, of course, our Athletes of the Week.
Also, the spring football game is right around the corner. We'll give you the details, so don't go anywhere.
And you know what? The Latinos have not been able to tell their story. Well, the Latino History Project was to put the history of Latinos in the school system in St. Vrain and Boulder Valley. And CU Boulder has been our main support in doing this. It is very important that we be proud of where we came from and say, I am who I am. I'm proud to be Latina, and I'm proud to be Boulder.
I've gotten a lot of shocking reactions when people find out that I'm 26 years old and I'm a freshman here at CU Boulder. I was in the Army for 8 years. I was in Afghanistan for 12 months in 2011. The worst part of my deployments was just seeing war and feeling that you're not safe. I decided to leave the military. I've always wanted to go to CU Boulder because of the outstanding education. Everybody made sure that I was well taken care of. I'm diving straight into calculus, physics, programming. I can be a veteran and I can be Boulder.
The trio of recently graduated defensive backs, Tedrick Thompson, Akello Witherspoon, and Chidobe Awuzie, had a great showing at CU's Pro Day. The Forever Buffs performed in front of all 32 NFL teams in Boulder last week. All 3 saw their NFL draft stock rise, both because of their performances and the injury to former Washington star Sidney Jones. Jones, the former Huskies DB, injured his Achilles during Washington's Pro Day on Saturday.
Do you have plans this Saturday? Well, if you do, cancel them. And if you don't, head to Folsom Field at 1 to watch the football team's spring game. We have Alex Vidger giving you guys the inside scoop on what the team has been working on during spring practice. Take it away, Alex.
Last year, the Colorado Buffaloes football team went 10-4, but this season, the team is already struggling with one problem. Colorado has been replacing the recently graduated seniors, including losing their starting quarterback and 8 starters on the defense. However, the Buffaloes have a few fresh faces on the field, with 24 new players who weren't on the roster just 1 season ago.
You guys want to have your chance now. This is your time. What the seniors did last year, that was their time. And they left a great legacy for them. Now, how do you guys want to be remembered?
Captain Sefo Lufau was the greatest quarterback in all of Colorado. Replacing Lufau has been one of the biggest questions of the spring season.
I just been working on my leadership skills because everybody knows that he's one of the best leaders that has been here in Colorado. So I mean that's what I go out every day and just try to think about how good of a leader I'm going to be and just hopefully just model myself after Sefo, his leadership skills.
Fans have already had the opportunity to watch Steven Montez play in 8 games last season. But this Saturday, he'll take snaps as the unquestioned quarterback. Fans will also have the opportunity to watch new defensive players as they replace the departed.
Next man up. All about the next man up. 8 guys, those are 8 guys that we made memories with at the University of Colorado. They were special guys, but it's all about the next man up. And if you ask those guys, they'll tell you the same. It's not about replacing, it's about reproducing. And that's what we're doing. We're grooming these young guys to step up and be leaders. So that's what it's all about.
The Buffs are in the final week of preparation for their first and only spring game scrimmage. The regular season for Colorado football starts on September 1st against Colorado State. Alex Vidger, SportsMag.
Thanks, Alex. The women's volleyball team started their full team spring practices last week. The team will practice for a few weeks before spring break, when they'll get a few days off. After the break, the Buffs will host the University of Northern Colorado and Colorado State on April 8th. In the fall, the Buffs finished with an overall record of 14-16 and had wins against 5 ranked opponents. The way the team competed last fall is definitely a good sign for this spring campaign.
We know how hard this is to believe, but the Colorado ski team did not win the national championship. We repeat, they did not win. The phenomenal ski program finished second to Utah at the NCAA championships. Utah won its first title since 2003 and its 11th overall, overtaking defending national champion Denver. Colorado has now finished as the runner-up 7 times with 8 titles in 27 seasons under head coach Richard Rokost. All-time overall, CU has won 20 championships with 12 runner-up finishes in the sport.
Our News Team Boulder affiliate, Aaron Sullivan, brings us the story of our USCSA ski team, a team who cannot compete at nationals but has the talent to do so. Take it away, Aaron.
Owen Wattenmaker has done it again. For the 3rd year in a row, he's the team champ. He's dedicated 18 years, a wad of cash, and a lot of early mornings to his craft. All for an end result that doesn't really count.
They announce who the eligible teams are to go to nationals, and they skip right over us.
In the USCSA conference, CU's student group ski race team is not eligible to compete at nationals.
It's disappointing, and why would you leave them out just because we're part of an NCAA school? I don't feel like that's any sort of reason to disregard a good athlete.
The 17 years of advocacy for the team to compete at nationals has been an exhaustive process, and race times like what Owen clocks will have you questioning why. For skiers like Owen, they can attend and race at the event, though when it comes time for closing ceremonies, their times have to be purged from the results.
Seems like it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. If we can't go prove ourselves on the national stage, then why do we go through all the time and money?
The year-after-year denial may also be out of fear that a self-funded CU racer would beat out an NCAA athlete with a full-ride scholarship, putting the opposing team's funding at risk.
A lot of people, parents, coaches, are let these kids race, and why aren't you letting them race? Because, you know, the USCSA bylaws, it says equal playing field for everyone, and it's like, come on.
Although they've yet to push past the red tape, with more big-name universities taking note of CU's advocacy and attempting to start their own secondary teams, their conversations with the USCSA board are certainly not over. Aaron Sullivan, News Team, Boulder.
It is now time for us to name our athletes of the week. One of my favorite parts of the show. Isn't it yours, Alex? Yeah. Those athletes are Darby Kiernan and David Ketterer. Kiernan had 3 goals and 2 assists in Colorado's victory over Winthrop. Ketterer skied well all year long, but his performances in the last race really stood out. He won the national championship in the slalom, a win that was instrumental in helping the Buffs come in 2nd place in the nationals meet.
We have to take another break, but we will talk about lacrosse and more lacrosse.
Sarah Baines is in our studio to talk about golf in this week's Buff Banner.
Plus, we sent some of our reporters to the lacrosse field for this week's riveting edition of Athletes vs. Reporters. You do not want to miss that.
We the people.
We the people of the United States.
We're bringing in experts from CU Boulder Law School and introduce the students to issues that are of national importance but have a tremendous impact on the small community of Ray. I think it really starts to develop those students into those informed citizens we would like them to become.
Do ordain and establish
this Constitution for the United States of America.
You can be a high school in Ray, Colorado and still be Boulder.
My biggest fear in life would be not amounting to anything. I decided I wanted to go to college because my parents never went.
The pre-collegiate program connects students with mentors to ensure that students get into college and graduate.
The best part about this program is the summer trips we take. The 2 weeks at CU, I've learned how stressful it is. That scares me, but in a way it does excite me. The biggest thing I've learned is just if you want to succeed, you have to be bold.
The University of Colorado women's lacrosse team faced their first top 10 team this season and blew them away. The Buffs played the number 6 team in the country, Penn State, trailing the Lions going into the halftime break. However, the Buffs did not let that slow them down. Once it came to the second half, the Colorado women came back. The second half saw them score 11 goals, finishing the game with a final score of 16-11. The Buffs were ranked 10th in the coaches' poll, but moved up to number 7 following the week's win over Penn State.
Following that win over the Nittany Lions, the Buffs set yet another new record for this young lacrosse team. With the win against the Lions, Colorado became ranked 4th in the Cascade Inside Lacrosse Media Poll. This is the first time that the Colorado team has been ranked in the top 5. Before the game against Penn State, the Buffaloes were ranked 8th, and they are one of just 3 teams that are still undefeated. In the other 2 polls, the Nike US Lacrosse Magazine poll and the Coaches poll both put the Buffs in the top 7. Speaking of lacrosse, we've got Cyrus Allen in studio giving you guys some more information on the team.
Thanks, guys. This week, I went out with some of the reporters to see how we stacked up against our 4th-ranked women's lacrosse team. Just to preface, they are 8-0 at this point and very good at lacrosse.
We decided to start off with some basic passing as the players tried to explain it to us.
Back of the stick, like Twizzler, behind, back around the world, and then whoever gets...
Ansley had a little bit of trouble catching it first, but eventually we started the event where the goal was to keep the ball in the air as long as possible. Ansley started off good, but did not end well for the reporters. Athletes take the first point. Second up, we tried ground balls. We thought we would give Nathan a try on this one, and he tried his best. Despite the great teaching coming from the lacrosse players, Nathan still had some trouble getting down the ground balls. But once he was able to figure it out, we decided to do some competitive ground balls against the players. Again, didn't work out well for us. Another point to the players. Third, we decided to take on the draw, an important asset of the game. Ansley and I tried to win a draw against one of the athletes. We were unsuccessful. Athletes taking the win, 3 to the reporters 0.
Well, as you can see, our lacrosse team is very good. And well, our reporters are not as good at lacrosse. You can watch the team play again Sunday at 3 p.m. against the Oregon Ducks here in Boulder at Kittredge Field. That's all for this week's edition of Athletes versus Reporters. Back to you at the desk.
These ladies do not know how to lose. They also went up against Winthrop University and took yet another win, extending their win streak to 8-0. In this game, the Buffs had 4 individuals with 3 or more goals for the 3rd time this season. Those talented ladies were Darby Kiernan, Callie Castagnola, Blair Sisk, and Katie McClay. Colorado didn't waste any time getting on the board, scoring within the first 3 minutes of the game. However, the Buffs didn't allow for much of an answer from the Eagles by putting 13 unanswered points on the board.
Following the last 2 wins that the ladies achieved, one member of the team has earned a very special honor. Miranda Stenson has become the first Buffalo ever to be selected as the Intercollegiate Women's Lacrosse Coaches Association Player of the Week. Earlier this week, Stenson was also named to the Alpha Lacrosse National Player of the Week and MPSF Offensive Player of the Week. These awards were given to Stenson after her outstanding performances against Penn State, where she put up 9 points up on the board. That broke the record for CU's single game points record. Congrats, Miranda.
Track star Danny Jones finished her indoor track season on a very high note by winning a national championship in the 3,000 meter. Jones ran the race in 9 minutes, 9.2 seconds. Coming into the final corner, Jones was running in second, but she had the strongest finishing kick of the bunch to take the title. Jenny Simpson, who graduated a few years ago, was the last Buff to win the indoor 3,000 meter race back in 2009. Jones also won a national title in the DMR relay the day before.
The indoor track and field team took home a relay national title last weekend in College Station, Texas. The title came in the DMR relay event. The team consisted of Tabler School, Elisa Mann, Sage Herda, and Danny Jones. As the anchor runner, Jones started her 1,600-meter run in 10th place, but made her way quickly up to 3rd. In the last 200 meters of the race, Jones was able to pass the Oregon and Stanford runners to win by 0.02 of a second. This is the first time in Mark Wetmore's tenure as head coach that a women's DMR relay team has even advanced to the finals.
Sarah Baines is here to talk about our women's golf team and how they are doing so far this year. Take it away, Sarah.
Hey CU sports fans, this is Sarah Baines for Buff Banter, here to bring you all the information about the so far incredible 2017 women's golf season. The Buffs opened the year in Stanford, California at the Peg Bernard Invitational. Colorado made a name for itself and for its key players. The Buffs finished 3rd, and freshman Robin Choi made an incredible impression, finishing as the 3rd best overall player. Choi was nominated for CU's Athlete of the Week with her 2-day score of 142. Choi shot 70, making it the best round of her collegiate career. The Buffs then played in the Bruin Wave Invitational in California. The 15-team field was extremely competitive and included 7 teams from GolfStat's top 50. Even through the darkness and windy conditions, the Buffs placed 4th. Junior Brittany Fan remained incredibly steady throughout the tournament and finished with a tie for 7th. Senior Esther Lee finished 14th, this being her 4th top 20 finish of the year. Head coach Ann Kelly said that this tournament was a good learning experience for tough courses. This week at the Gifford Grade 8 Collegiate Match Play event in California, the Buffs beat the 4th seed, Purdue, finishing 3rd place. In this 3-day event, the Buffs beat Georgia, fell to USC, but then came back to defeat Purdue for a solid 3rd place finish. Both Georgia and Purdue ranked above CU before the tournament, making it an impressive ending. The Buffs have big events ahead of them. The Spring Break Classic in Hawaii is closely followed by the Silverado Showdown in California. The Buffs will play in the Pac-12 tournament, then in the NCAA Regionals and Championships. The Buffs have had an incredible year and are looking to continue their streak for the remainder of the season. I'm Sarah Baines. Now back to you guys at the desk.
It's time for one last break, but we will finally get you the answer to the trivia question we asked you earlier.
Also, Aaron Sullivan joins us for the hottest segment in existence, Rapid Fire.
You guys, I think I found the end of the rainbow, but if you want to see it, stay tuned for Rapid Fire.
Woo! It's definitely hot in here. I think Erin messed with the thermostat just a little bit during the break. She's here in the studio to give all of us the details on what's happening this week in CU sports.
Thanks, guys. I'm Erin Sullivan with a very lucky edition of Rapid Fire. Earlier in the show, I updated you on the USCSA ski team. Now, let's check out what's going on with the varsity ski racing team. David Ketterer, one of CU's NCAA skiers, is off to Quebec, Canada to compete in the GS event for the NorAm Finals Cup, starting this weekend. Also happening this weekend, the outdoor track and field team will host the Jerry Quiller Classic at Potts Field. The events will kick off today at 3 p.m. with the men's hammer throw and continue throughout Sunday. Later in the weekend, the women's lacrosse team will face up against the unranked Oregon Ducks this Sunday at noon. The Buffs are holding their own this season with a perfect record of 8-0. It'll be a home game for the women, so stop by and show your support while enjoying the sunshine. That's all the time I have for this week's Rapid Fire. Have a fantastic Paddy's Day, Boulder. Back to you guys at the desk.
Well, it is now finally time for us to answer that trivia question. In case you forgot, we asked, who was the last Colorado Buffalo taken in the first round of the NFL Draft? Well, that's actually a trick question because they had two. Nate Solder was one. He was taken in the first round, 17th by the New England Patriots. His teammate, cornerback Jimmy Smith, was taken 27th by the Baltimore Ravens. Both have gone on to have successful careers with their respective clubs and represented the Buffs like any true Buff should.
This week's Tweet of the Week comes to you from CDS Sports College Basketball's John Rothstein. As of last night, he had tweeted this exact phrase over 40 times just in the past 16 days. The tweet reads, "This is March." Indeed, John, it is time for March Madness, and you have let us know that with your word-for-word phrase every March since you joined Twitter in 2009. Rothstein is known for his constant repeats of phrases. It's like his timeline is a Fortune 500 company. It runs itself. At John Rothstein, your brand is more life-altering than a 10-day trip to Europe.
Well, that's all the time we have on CU Sports Mag this week. I'm Alex Doyle.
And I am Jake Shapiro.
Have a lucky, is that the right adjective for it, St. Patrick's Day?
I'm going to say safe and hydrated St. Patrick's Day. We will see you next week.